Okay, hey guys, just another film worth a quick review. There's a lot of talk about, extreme films, films that are banned, films that are censored, but there are quite a few worth mentioning that haven't really been controversial in the sense that they've been banned or edited around the world, but that they are outstanding horror films. And I think this one's pretty high on the list, most people's list. You look at the top most disturbing films or extreme horror films. Martyrs, 2008. Crops up a lot now, and deservedly so. This is, I would say, in my opinion, this is probably the best, most disturbing horror film in many respects that I've seen for a long time. I mean, potentially, I don't really rate things in order necessarily, but this would definitely be in my top, like 3. I don't know, maybe the top number 1. I don't know. It's a foreign language film, which sadly, such films are often overlooked by the majority. People don't like reading subtitles apparently, but believe me, it is worth it. Get hold of this. Apparently they're going to remake it with Kristen Stewart, of all people, in the lead role, and a happy ending. That's Hollywood for you. That is an absolutely dreadful idea. I'm sad to say it probably will make a lot of money, which is why that kind of thing goes ahead, but you do not need to remake films like this. Do you know what I mean? Reinterpretation maybe, but to remake it and give it a happy ending is absolutely ludicrous. This is the only version anyone's really ever going to need of this film. This is outstanding. If you want a lesson, it's often compared to Inside, which is another French film, which in my opinion is not quite in the same league. I may do a review of that later, but it's not in the same league as Martyrs. Inside, I'll go into it at the time, but Inside is implausible to a certain degree and becomes laughable. Martyrs is not in any way laughable. This is not a film you can watch and say, oh, Human Centipede 2, oh, it's so extreme, it was funny, it was like a roller coaster ride. This isn't, I would not, bring this down to the level of a roller coaster ride, or, oh, it's nasty, it's got nasty sequences in it. It's above and beyond that. It's just the whole film, the whole experience is absolutely, it's nothing I've ever seen before. The first time I watched this, I was absolutely blown away. I mean, you've got the opening shot, a young girl running out of a warehouse, crying, bleeding, very intense, and it really doesn't let up from there. And then it's on her, without wanting to spoil the plot, she's an orphan, and she meets up with the other girl on the cover, and who protects her, and you suspect that the Lucy, this one, you suspect that she's being plagued by some sort of monster, or someone who's out to get her, maybe something to do with the place she escaped from. And it is, again, I don't want to spoil it, but it's not at all what you think. It's basically, it works out in the end. This is a film about victims, and the monsters pursuing her is a representation of her own guilt, and you find out eventually that the monster itself, or herself, was also a victim. The whole concept of this film is torture. It is tying someone up in a room and breaking them. Oh, you've got it on the back. Yeah, chaining someone up in a room and breaking them down psychologically for whatever the reason is. I mean, the reason here is different, for example, than the reason in the Saw films or the Hostel films. This isn't done purely for the joy of torture, as is so often portrayed to be the case now. It's not sadism. There's something, whether or not it's a more believable or valuable reason is debatable, but again, I won't spoil it. But it's absolutely outstanding. It's so well shot. It really does. It's relentless. Too many horror films these days, there's a long build-up, or there's a nasty thing happens, and a long line of families getting on and laughing and setting things up. None of that. This is sort of straight at the deep end, and it just doesn't let go until the end. I was sat down to watch it for a few minutes, thinking I'll come back to it later. Hour and a half, 2 hours later, still there watching the ending credits. It is an experience well worth getting hold of. I mean, you can get this now on Amazon for like a £5 or something. Trust me, if you're a fan of extreme horror films, best £5 you'll ever spend. Absolutely outstanding, genuinely emotional. You empathise completely with the characters. It's borderline, realistic. We know this sort of thing does happen. Again, so psychopaths do exist, but maybe they don't exist in quite the way that the psychopaths of The Human Centipede or Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street exist. You know, they're not quite superhuman. There's no supernatural element to this film at all. It's raw, gritty, human-on-human violence and degradation, and it's completely compelling. Well, I really can't praise it enough. It's an outstanding film. As I say, well worth getting hold of. As far as I'm aware, I think there's a version in America that's marked as unrated, but so far as I'm aware, it's exactly the same as the 18-rated version in the UK and Ireland. So it's not difficult to get hold of, or well worth watching. I don't want you'd like to go into the plot, but I won't spoil it for anyone. Let's just say you won't be disappointed. If you're a fan of extreme horror, watch this film. This kind of sets the benchmark, I think, for intelligent, well-directed horror films. It's a testament to what, you know, good writing, brilliant acting, brilliant directing can do if brought together. You know, you can have explicit imagery, you can have a brilliant director or a very talented star, or, you know, a lot of blood. You can, you know, conform to the recipe of a successful horror film, but to really be a truly successful horror film, a truly effective and disturbing film, it kind of has to combine all of the elements. And this does. There's not really anything I can say bad about this film, to be honest. There's the pacing is brilliant. As I say, it's relentless. It keeps going. You'll get to a point around about halfway through where you think, you know, is that the end of the film? You know, it was outstanding, but can there be any more? And then it opens up a completely new dimension, and then takes it even further. And you know, you're going to be watching until the bitter end. Again, it's not a happy ending. It's a realistic ending. It's kind of a study of victims, not exactly sadism, but the ability of human beings to commit cruelty against each other, which has always been far more disturbing than the supernatural. I mean, Freddy Krueger, we kind of know, yeah, you know, he's a product of your nightmares. He's not really real. Michael Myers is a bit superhuman. He's not really real. The events in this film, similar events have been documented and do happen, and you know, the way that the characters react to them is believable, and it's yeah, it's very powerful. It's emotional. It's well acted. It's genuinely, you know, a sad film. And the fact that you empathise so greatly with the characters makes the horror that much more real and difficult to take. Yes, I mean, that sounds like I'm talking this up too much, but watch it or let me know what you think. I mean, as I say, I've seen in many people's reviews it's been in their top 10 or their #1 most disturbing film. I would say that this is more disturbing, in my opinion, even with the explicit imagery included. This is more disturbing than a Serbian film. It's more disturbing than The Last House on the Left. It's more disturbing than The Human Centipede Part 2. It's more disturbing than I Spit on Your Grave, Pink Flamingos. I mean, to be honest, I'd be hard pressed to think of something that's more disturbing than this, in the sense of not just the physical violence, but the emotional and psychological trauma and the way it's portrayed on the screen. It's got a lot of jumpy moments in it as well. Best watched, ideally, if you can stand it, watch it alone in the house with the lights off. Well worth it. It's the kind of film that you wish you could forget, just so that you'd have the ability to watch it from scratch again. Yeah, can't praise it more highly. If any of you disagree with me, I'd be surprised, but let me know. Yeah, Martyrs.